The news from Guyana, the region, and the world. Compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom and powered by DemeraraWaves.com.
The news comes to you with the compliments of Eureka Medical Laboratories. With the news at this time, I am Tiana Jordan. A very good morning to you. First, the lead stories. Efforts are underway to replace 2 winches that have been stolen from 2 West Bank Demerara sluices. 2 siblings who pursued legal studies together have been admitted to practice law in Guyana. In regional news, Cubans yesterday aborted plans to hold a larger protest to press demands for an end to the violation of human rights. The details of these and other stories will be coming up right here in just a moment.
A COVID-19 PCR test is now mandatory for many routine activities, including travel and return to work purposes. At Eureka, our trained and experienced staff will ensure confidentiality while your test is conducted in a professional and timely manner, which results in just 48 hours. So the next time you require an efficient and hassle-free PCR COVID-19 test, call 624-8378, 608-8378, or 623-7233 to schedule your appointment. You can also ask about our house call testing service.
And now the news in detail. Two winches for sluices at Nimes and Lagrange have been stolen, and the Ministry of Agriculture says it is worried that if there is prolonged heavy rainfall, residents can experience floods. The government's Department of Public Information says officials believe that the winches were stolen during high tide because they are big and heavy and can only be removed by the Demerara River. Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa has warned that anyone caught tampering with the drainage structures will face the full force of the law. He says that surveillance has been heightened to prevent the theft of more sluices. Mr. Mustafa says the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority is taking steps to replace the winches that open and close the sluices. The Guyana-Brazil border crossing has been reopened from Monday to Friday. The director of the COVID-19 task force, Colonel Nazrul Hussein, issued a statement last night announcing the decision. Up to recently, the crossing had been opened twice weekly for a few hours. This had allowed days of protest by Brazilians who had blocked trucks from leaving Bonfim to Brazil to come to Guyana to offload supplies. Colonel Hussein says all the COVID measures remain in force, although the border has now been opened fully. The Guyana Police Force is promising the general public shopping comfort during the Christmas period with beefing up its crime prevention plan until January 15, 2022. Commander of Police Division 4A, Andrew McBain, says more members of the police force are on the streets as part of the Christmas crime prevention plan.
Emphasizes reassurance. You need to reassure the public that they can come to Georgetown and shop in an environment that is conducive. It emphasizes deterrence, quick policing response, police and public interaction, and that we hope would contribute to the promotion of positive perception of the police. This plan is also, as I said before, intended to aid in the reduction of crime and fear of crime.
The 4A Division Commander for Georgetown to Industry on the East Coast and to Agricola on the East Bank says police will be deployed using various methods.
How do we intend to go about putting forward this plan? The region will be divided or has been divided into 15 sectors consisting of foot, bicycle, and vehicle patrols. Each sector will be commanded by an officer or an inspector. Foot and bicycle patrol will be done between 8 and 18 hours daily. Motorcycle patrols will be done between 6 and midnight. And as Mr. Blanham would have indicated, that these patrols these plans were made based on our analysis.
He advises the general public to take note of patrol times and use those periods in their areas to shop and conduct other business.
Motor vehicle patrols will be done on a 24-hour basis. Foot, bicycle, and motorcycle patrols timings will be adjusted to accommodate our late shopping. Heightened intelligence-led operations, heightened focus on noise nuisance, our continued focus on COVID-19 enforcement. We continue our maritime patrols on a daily basis and working in close collaboration with the city constabulary and the business community.
The commander says in addition to the police providing protection, the public is advised to only walk with necessary items, shop in groups where necessary, always be aware of your surroundings, and avoid bulk cash transactions as much as possible. Crime Chief Wendell Blanham says the investigative arm of the Guyana Police Force, GPF, is suffering from a shortage of investigators. The Crime Chief says the criminal investigation offices across all 10 regions of Guyana are weakened by a series of challenges.
There's an inadequate amount of investigators to police all 10 regions. And we have lost some investigators this year to retirement. A few of them we had to put before the court. And then we will have transferred some of them for disciplinary infractions. With the COVID situation, we weren't able to conduct criminal investigation courses to induct new entrants. We've also lost some of our investigators to some of the companies out there, the security companies I'm speaking about.
Mr. Blanham says to compound the challenge, the department is facing challenges with its own ranks becoming rogue.
We've had cases investigated by the Office of Professional Responsibility where police ranks, and this is not limited to CID ranks, they would have absented themselves from attending court, and the matters were dismissed. We have had instances where a few ranks were found to be in collusion with criminal elements. Only recently, we had to prosecute a senior officer for trafficking in narcotics.
Mr. Blanham says the number of repeat offenders and the COVID pandemic have contributed to a testing period for the Criminal Investigation Department.
Repeated offenders, this is a matter of concern to us. They're being granted bail, and then they reoffend. There's a high rate of recidivism in Guyana. CCTV images obtained from some of these crime scenes are of poor quality. And that's why we urge business persons, to ensure that they have cameras of the highest quality.
The crime chief says the police force has made significant progress in solving several crimes. He highlighted the force's successes at a media briefing yesterday, but stayed clear on the progress of high-profile public interest cases like the killing of Orrin Boston and Peter Headley by ranks of the GPF. The Guyana Police Force currently has a complement of 5,000 uniform ranks. The opposition Alliance for Change, AFC, and A New and United Guyana, ANUG, disagree with the $10 million Guyana dollars fines and life imprisonment for a number of election offenses. However, the government says attempts to cheat an election amount to the toppling of an elected government. ANUG chairman Attorney at Law Timothy Jonas says the proposed amendments to the Representation of the People Act are crafted as strict liability offences rather than in a way that allows a court to determine whether accused persons have knowledge or intend to commit an offence.
There is nothing here that talks about knowingly or fraudulently or with knowledge. This is strict liability. That goes past draconia. That is representative of the culture in our society that makes us think that if we have a heavy hand, we can stop crime.
Touching on concerns about the introduction of strict liability offences, Attorney General Anil Nandlal says if a law is silent on intention, the court is required to read to consider that factor. He says Guyana has a history of election rigging by the People's National Congress reform. Mr. Nandlal says the penalties, which go as far as a 10 million Guyana dollars fine and a life imprisonment, are needed because such election-related offences are tantamount to toppling an elected government.
That is analogous to a lawful government being overthrown by tyrants. That is the legal analogy that I want to draw. When the democratic will of the people is denied and those who are not elected are imposed as a government, it is akin to a coup d'etat unlawfully. When that happens, persons who commit those types of offenses are charged with offenses of treason and related offenses. Do you know what is the penalty for that? Death. Death is the penalty for treason.
Attorney General Anil Nandlal. Mr. Jonas says the most important amendment should be to allow for the posting of statements of poll on the website of the Guyana Elections Commission, as that will discourage election officials from tampering with the results.
You should immediately put this statement up on a website for everybody to see, for me to see, for you, the media to see, for both political parties to see, so that contemporaneously, live, the same day as it is being counted, you count in your 800 votes in your place of poll, I count in my 500 in mine. It is going up and it is being tabulated live. Use the technology, have it up live, and that will diffuse any nonsensical attempts when it becomes more centralized and all the statements of poll now go to one individual who can corrupt it. It makes his life much more difficult. Because when he is going through his process of collating these statements of poll, the whole country knows the result already.
Chairman of A New and United Guyana, Timothy Jonas. The Health Ministry says it is monitoring 3 regions which are showing the highest number of active COVID cases presently. There were no deaths recorded. The death toll remains at 959. Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony says there are less than 2,500 active cases, but 3 regions out of 10 are of concern.
So over the last 24 hours, we were able to detect 55 new cases, and currently we have 2,412 active cases. The places that we are paying keen attention to would be Region 3, 4, 6, and 10.
Dr. Anthony says there are more than 45 persons hospitalized.
So of these active cases, currently we have 50 persons in hospital. 32 persons are right now at the Ocean View Hospital, with 15 of them in the ICU. The others are in different regional hospitals, like 4 at Suddy Hospital, 3 at West Demerara, 2 at the Region 5 facility, 1 at Skeldon, 1 in Bartica, 2 at Madia, and we have 4 persons in the Wisma Hospital.
The ministry says it has vaccinated 391,521, or 76% of adults with a first dose COVID vaccine, and 261,811, or 51% of adults, are fully vaccinated. To date, 28,345 children between the ages of 12 to 17 years old are partially vaccinated, and 19,536 fully vaccinated. Two siblings, Mr. Delonte Declue and Miss Ama Declue, were Monday admitted to practice law in Guyana. Their petitions were presented by Senior Counsel Rafi Khan. Sitting virtually on the bench was Justice of Appeal of the Eastern Caribbean Court, Louise Blandman, who is the aunt of the young lawyers. Chief Justice Roxanne George Wiltshire remarked that there appeared to be a Blandman dynasty in the legal profession.
Both of you are fortunate in that I want to think there's a Blandman Declue dynasty in the making. We have other legal dynasties in Guyana and throughout the region, but you're very fortunate to have in your aunt a Justice of Appeal and in your mother an excellent attorney at law. You have big shoes to follow. But no doubt, because of your pedigree, because of your background, because of your obvious industry, you will fill those shoes.
Justice of Appeal Blandman urged her niece and nephew to seek out mentors.
Mentors are those are those men and women, whether part of a formal or informal structure, who demonstrate by their conduct and their respect for other lawyers and the bench what is expected of you as new members of the bar. You are privileged to have many outstanding jurists in Guyana who you should seek out for mentorship. I believe that judges, registrars, and lawyers can and do provide mentorship to young attorneys at law.
The Declues are the offspring of former chairman of the National Procurement and Tender Administration Board, Mr. Donald Declue, and Jamaica-based Guyanese attorney at law, Gloria Blandman Declue. Mrs. Blandman Declue also practiced in Montserrat, Dominica, and Trinidad and Tobago. Police have arrested a 29-year-old man for allegedly raping a 15-year-old girl on Saturday morning. Police say the perpetrator attacked the teen while she was on her way to a nearby shop. The man allegedly grabbed the teen from behind and pulled her into some nearby bushes and allegedly raped her. The teen began screaming, and a male passerby heard the screams and raised an alarm which enabled the teen to escape. Police say the victim was seen and examined by a doctor. The suspect was contacted, told of the offense committed, cautioned, arrested, and was placed in custody pending further investigation. And now in regional news. A rallying cry for protest in Cuba in favor of greater civil rights fell flat on Monday as most Cuban dissidents stayed home in the face of government pressure. Reuters news agency says this appeared to end a standoff on the same day the Caribbean island reopened its borders to tourists. Dissidents have for months called on social media for a civic march for change following street protests in July, the largest on the island in decades. Hundreds remain in jail following these rallies, according to rights groups. Cuba's communist government banned Monday's planned demonstrations, saying they were part of a destabilization campaign by the United States, which maintains a Cold War-era embargo on Cuba. U.S. officials have denied that. Dissidents on social media called on supporters to launch protests at 3 p.m. in 10 cities across Cuba. More than 3 hours later, There was little sign of organized protest, though dissidents on social media shared videos of individuals or small groups who were quickly shuttered down by pro-government supporters. In Havana, plain-clothed and uniformed police were visible at gathering points throughout the city. Streets appeared quieter than normal as some parents kept their children home from school. In a historic step towards legitimization and adoption of the metaverse, Barbados is preparing to legally declare digital real estate sovereign land with the establishment of a metaverse embassy. Barbados's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade signed an agreement on Saturday with Decentraland, among the largest and most popular crypto-powered digital worlds, for the establishment of a digital embassy. CoinDesk reports that the government is also finalizing agreements with Somnium Space, Superworld, and other metaverse platforms. In an interview with CoinDesk, Barbados's ambassador to the United Arab Emirates, Gabriel Abed, said the country intends to expand aggressively beyond its initial effort to build structures and purchase digital land in a variety of virtual worlds. He said the Barbadian government, whose cabinet approved the Metaverse Embassy in August, views the move as a unique diplomatic opportunity. With the release of the embassy, tentatively scheduled for January, Barbados will become the first country in the world to recognize digital sovereign land. The Antigua and Barbuda government is exploring stem cell therapy as a means of treating persons suffering from COVID-19. Prime Minister Gaston Brown says his administration had become aware of a person being treated overseas for the virus that has seen great results. He believes that stem cells can be the reason behind it.
I'm advised that one is doing very well, would have made a miraculous turnaround. That person was apparently treated with some stem cells, and it would appear as though the stem cells are working. So it is expected that that person will be extubated or be taken off of the ventilator shortly. And that is an area that we'll continue to do some primary research to determine how stem cells assist COVID patients.
Brown said it is also the Antigua and Barbuda government's intention to make available to the rest of the world data regarding the efficacy and safety of the stem cell. And now for the international news, the latest coming from the BBC World Service.
BBC News. Hello, this is Jerry Smith. President Biden and China's leader Xi Jinping have held an extensive video summit that contained moments of warmth but also warnings. Mr. Xi began by saying he was happy to see an old friend. From Beijing, Stephen McDonnell reports.
This was an attempt to reset an acrimonious relationship which had increased fears of conflict. Xi Jinping and Joe Biden spoke extensively via video link, covering many areas where their governments disagree, from Taiwan and Tibet to the coronavirus and trade tensions. They had their differences, but there were smiles and there was mutual praise, with China's leader describing his US counterpart as an old friend. At the very least, it's hoped this meeting will ease diplomatic tensions. At best, it could signal a preparedness from the world's most powerful nations to cooperate more where it's possible.
There have been 2 explosions in the centre of the Ugandan capital, Kampala. The Ugandan government has blamed a number of recent bombings on Islamist militants. And Soy has more details.
We have confirmation of those 2 attacks on the road leading to Parliament and another one opposite the police station, both of them within the central business district. The first responders are at the scene. I have seen pictures of people leaving their offices really terrified. Reuters is reporting that 2 people have been confirmed dead. We haven't had any claims of responsibility for the attacks today. Perhaps this will come as we get more details.
Police in Kenya have arrested 7 prison officers a day after 3 men convicted on terrorism charges escaped from the country's most secure jail. The security forces are on high alert and are monitoring the borders. Ferdinand Amondi reports.
Detectives are investigating how people described as dangerous escaped from the Kamiti Maximum Prison, Kenya's most guarded detention facility, about 20 kilometers northeast of Nairobi. In a statement, the Interior Secretary Fred Matiang'i said investigators have formed initial opinions that the prison break was a result of incompetence and laxity. The 3 escapees included a man serving 41 years jail time for his role in the 2015 Garissa University attack, where close to 150 people were killed. Another had been convicted for a foiled assault on Kenya's parliament, and the other for crossing into Somalia to join Al-Shabaab.
Russia's space agency has defended itself against American accusations that a Russian missile test endangered astronauts on the International Space Station. The agency, Roscosmos, said the unconditional safety of the crew was its main priority. The United States has called Moscow dangerous and irresponsible for blowing up a Russian satellite, creating a cloud of debris which forced space station astronauts to shelter in their return ships. News from the BBC. With just over a year until the start of the Football World Cup in Qatar, a new report says migrant workers there still face widespread exploitation. Amnesty International has accused the Gulf state of stalling on promises to improve workers' rights. The committee in charge of delivering the World Cup has not yet commented on the report. The president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, who's been accused of orchestrating a migrant crisis at his country's borders with the European Union, has now said he wants to avoid confrontation. Polish border guards have used tear gas and water cannon against a small group of migrants who threw stones as they tried to break down a fence and cross from the Belarusian side. The president of Lithuania, Gitanas Nausėda, whose country also borders Belarus, told the BBC that Mr. Lukashenko was using the migrants as a tool.
I must be very clear. Belarus regime is responsible for this situation of migrants. They are used as a tool in this hybrid attack, and this is happening in the territory of Belarus.
The television network Al Jazeera says the Sudanese authorities have released the chief of its Khartoum bureau 2 days after he was arrested. They gave no reason for detaining al-Musalmi al-Kubashi during a midnight raid on his home in the capital. The arrest happened during a weekend of mass protests across Sudan against the military takeover last month. The authorities in Afghanistan have had to suspend operations at Kabul's passport office because it can't cope with the number of applications. The Taliban's passport chief says some 7,000 people have been arriving every day. He said the machines used to issue the documents have broken down under the pressure. Concerns about Afghanistan's future under the Taliban government is fueling an exodus. BBC News.
The news came to you with the compliments of Eureka Medical Laboratories.
Don't let the fear of contracting the coronavirus disease deter you from seeking the medical care you need. At Eureka Labs, we ensure the safety of our clients and staff with our rigid sanitization routine. This involves the use of ultraviolet lights to effectively rid the air and all surfaces of viruses and bacteria that may be present throughout the lab daily. The light works to rapidly inactivate microorganisms through a physical process that is invisible to human eye. So the next time you need a checkup, don't hesitate to give us a call on 225-7574 to schedule your appointment.
And now to end the news, here's a recap of the leads. Efforts are on the way to replace 2 winches that have been stolen from 2 West Bank Demerara sluices. 2 siblings who pursued legal studies together have been admitted to practice law in Guyana. And regionally, Cubans yesterday aborted plans to hold a large protest to press demands for an end to the violation of human rights. And that's the end of the news.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio Newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.